I look at the stars, and I see these vividly real, energetic points of fire scattered all over the sky in the middle of black nothingness. Now, how would the stars look if there were no space? How would space look if there were no stars? You see? The two go together. You cannot realize what you mean by is unless you have also, along with it, a thing that you understand as isn't. Void goes with form. The Buddhist sutra says, Shiki sokuze ku sokuze shiki, which means that which is form, that exactly is voidness, that which is voidness, that exactly is form. Now, all mysticism is comprised in this. Mysticism, as we use it in an English word, comes from the Greek muin, mu, and that means the finger on the lips, quiet. Mum's the word. We can't really say it. There is a secret. There is something that you're not supposed to know, but that you should know for your sanity. Now, sleep refreshes you. Isn't that curious? Sleep is a very little understood phenomenon by psychologists. But being unconscious for a while, being nowhere, brings you back to life. Of course it does. Because you wouldn't know you were alive unless you'd once been dead, or unless you occasionally went to sleep. You wouldn't have the feeling of reality, of here-ness, of now-ness, of sensitivity like this when you pinch yourself, unless it could be contrasted with nowhere, with nothingness. All our knowledge, all energy is a phenomenon of contrasts, like a wave. Supposing energy itself is basically a wave phenomenon. There is the crest and there's the trough, and it goes yo, 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 and it's upstanding, convex, and downstanding, concave. And this, of course, is the difference between the male and the female. And if we understand this, we're not going to have any more fights about women's lib. The male is upstanding. The female is hollow. See? And you cannot realize the one without the other. This is absolutely basic. You cannot see the figure without the ground. You cannot understand what is important, imp, so rather mischievous, without what is unimportant, fades into the background. All logic, all discourse, all thought, all imagination, all consciousness depends upon this contrast. And the secret of it is, this is the thing that I was talking about as mum's the word, muin, is that the two go together. That what appear to be things opposed, unrelated, fighting, are really things that can't do without each other. Jung, when I saw Jung in 1958, just before he died, we had a long talk in his summer house on the edge of Lake Zurich. And there were swans around there. And as we walked out at the end of the talk, I said to him, "Is it true that swans are monogamous?" He said, yes. Yes, it is curious that they are monogamous. And do you know another interesting fact about swans is that when the male and the female begin to make love to each other, they start by fighting until they discover what they're supposed to be doing. He said, this has been of great help to some of my female homosexual patients. He didn't explain it further, he just dropped it and left it at that. But make love, not war, you see, is a very great statement, not of an ideal, but of a necessity. Something that we're going to have to do, whether we like it or not. Because the opposites, the things that we seem to see as in absolute conflict, consciousness and unconsciousness, life and death, black and white, are absolutely essential to each other. And we can take this, you can flip it suddenly into any dimension of human experience. Let's take black people and white people. This is a caricature because there aren't really black people and white people. There are brown people and grayish pink people. But nevertheless, call it black and white. And we realize the richness of experience just because there is this differentiation. The way black people swing and behave wouldn't be realizable unless it were in contrast with the way white people behave. And the two groups have to learn to be grateful to each other for their difference. Like man and woman. It's the same thing. Vive la petite différence. And so also, all in-groups, people who consider themselves elect and saved, right, and like the church, must realize they could only understand that in terms of an outgroup, who are the damned, the awful people who live the other side of the tracks, who are in hell. Even St. Thomas Aquinas gives away the secret that the saints in heaven occasionally walk to the edges of the battlements and look down at the squirming, burning sufferings of the damned in hell and give praise to God for the administration of divine justice. He said that. So that by contrast with the sufferings of the damned, they know in what bliss they are. So I'm sort of making jokes and giving parables to express the point that we know what is reality, what it is to be alive and to exist, always by contrast with nothingness, space, emptiness, and death. Just as we see the stars as points of brilliant, vibrant energy, only by contrast with the blackness of the night and the emptiness of space. The one gives the other. Look at it in this way. What do you mean by the word clarity? Clarity. What do you think of when you say clear? Well, one thing you might think of is clear in the sense of wiped clean, transparency, empty space, finely polished mirror, a perfect, flawless lens. Clear. The next thing you think of with the word clear is completely articulate form. Something where the outlines are perfectly definite, totally in focus. Did you see now? This is a fascinating thing, that in the one idea of clear, you have emptiness, wiped clean, and form in perfect expression. So this is the meaning, of course, of that Buddhist saying, Shiki soku ze ku, ku soku ze shiki. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness. all embraced in the idea of clarity. So therefore, we go on. Another fundamental contrast in experience, like form and space, is the voluntary and the involuntary. What you do on the one hand and what happens to you on the other. Now, this is absolutely basic to most of us. We know, or we think we know, that there is a thing called what I'm doing, my influence on it, and on the other hand, its influence on me. Self and other. And our big conflict is to make self win over other. That's what we call the conquest of nature. Collectively, humanity as self wants to subdue, beat down, and control what is called other. Now, we don't really want that. Because if we succeeded in that enterprise, if we made the element of experience, the thing that happens to us that is not in our control, if we put that completely under our control, we would be bored to death. It would be like screwing a plastic woman. Nobody wants that. When you love someone, you want them to come at you in an unexpected way. Not too unexpected, but anyway, fairly unexpected. You want to feel that there's something out there that is different, see, that will surprise you. Well, so in exactly the same way, you wouldn't be able to experience the sensation that you call self being a source of action more or less in control, unless it had the contrasting field of something other that is not in control, that you never know what it's going to do. See, these two sensations go together. They're back and front of the same coin. And so the whole technological enterprise of the West, which is designed to control the universe by technological methods, is in the end not sufficiently conscious of itself to know where it's going. And it is all moving towards, because you see, we don't understand. It is not part of our education that we understand this relationship between opposites. We are so frantic to survive and so terrified of the night of death that we are going to destroy the planet out of our anxiety to survive. The whole colossal military enterprise that is wasting the energies of the earth. The Americans, the Russians, and the Chinese are wasting their substance in the most appalling way in creating so-called defensive technologies, instruments to protect themselves from each other, which can only destroy all of us. They can do nothing else. They protect no one. You know, like in the next war, join the Air Force and be safe. You're the only people who will be, because you'll be miles up in the air or way under the ground somewhere. Women and children can go hang. Nobody's going to protect them anymore. The whole technology of the military world is completely wasteful and destructive, but it's all being financed in the name of survival. In other words, you want to survive so badly that you're going to have to commit suicide. So the point is, you don't need to survive. We don't really have to go on living, because the nothingness of death, being the opposite of life, simply generates it. Like the space, the empty space of the sky is what is generating the stars. Like the womb generates the living being, the emptiness is the form. That's not in our logic. It was left out of our education. We never saw it. And therefore we have anxiety all the time. We think, to be or not to be, that is the question. It isn't. To be is not to be, and not to be is to be. They imply each other. They are the background to the figure to the background. And so stop worrying. And I'm saying this not just to be a kind of a sophist and play at you with funny ideas, but to suggest that it is very important at this time that human beings cool it. That we reduce the volume of our anxiety and take things easy. That we eat less, run around less, fuss less about being there. I really seriously suggest this. Now look, a lot of people don't know they're alive unless they're making a tremendous vibration. A lot of people need to get behind the wheel of a car or a plane that goes, and then they really know they're there. They're going, and that's it. Oh my, I'm a man.